Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Mobile Trading Floor's update for today, Friday the 13th. Ooh, spooky. Right, let's have a quick look at the news, first of all. It's a bit of a busy day. We've got important releases on pound, Canadian dollar, and two for US dollar. So that, coupled with the fact that it is a Friday, and we know that after about midday on a Friday, trading activity literally tails away as all the traders decide what it is they want to do at the weekend with all of their ill-gotten gains, then it might not be such a great day to be in the markets. But let's have a look and see what we're on the lookout for on a slightly longer term scale. So let's have a look at our charts. Now we're going to run through the majors first of all. So as we can see, what we're looking at here, this is euro dollar on the daily. It's forming a fairly neat downtrend here. We've got a few touches which are confirming it. We've got horizontal lines of support and resistance, and as we can see, where those two converge, then we tend to get price moving away. So as you can see, we've got horizontal line, price comes away, horizontal line. When those two converge, price then comes away. So it's moving back to back towards the trend line. So, and again, we like this because this is obviously working in conjunction with cyclicity. So we know that the market is moving in the right direction of what we want. The fib cloud has established a reasonable downtrend. So when we get some sort of interaction between price and this, and potentially a horizontal line of support and movement, then we would look to expect that to head south for Xavinta at some point. Let's have a quick look at what that looks like on the 4-hourly. Obviously, as you'd expect, it's the same sort of thing, but just in slightly more granular detail. You can also see why we draw our lines for support and resistance on the daily chart. So we've got our cloud here. As you can see, price action doesn't pay that much attention to the cloud on the 4-hourly basis. It doesn't mean that it ignores it at all. But obviously it will punch through it to get to whatever it considers the daily trend lines and moving averages to be. So as you can see, we're moving up here. So when, like I said, when we get to some sort of interaction with this and this, then we might expect to see a move south. And when it happens, it normally happens fairly, with a reasonable amount of gusto. So that could well be an opportunity to use some sort of trailing stop to make sure we lock in those profits, or even to do double trading. So we place one trade with a target and one with a trailing stop, so that we lock in the profit if it does come back on us. Let's have a look at sterling. So sterling again on the daily, it is bouncing. It's at the bottom of the bounce at the moment. So given the fact that it is in a downtrend, then wouldn't be looking to do anything until we see price coming up here and then interacting that way. That's just us. All of this stuff is literally our opinion of what could and may happen. Let's have a look at Swissy. Swissy again is that's in a nice uptrend. As we can see, the fib cloud is running along, is tracking nicely. Price action is bouncing fairly regularly off the trend line which we've got here, and again just looking at kind of the congruence, conflux, the meeting, probably a simpler word, of horizontal support and resistance and trend lines is where we start to see some sort of action. So it comes in here, gets spanked upwards, spanked upwards, spanked upwards. So, and that may well happen again in the fairly near future. So as we can see, price action is getting back into a stage. So, and again, we'd be looking to trade with the trend in the right phase of cyclicity and watching it head north. So watch that. Watch the skies, folks. Having a look at that on the 4-hourly chart. Again, same thing, but you can see in slightly greater detail. What you'll often find actually is if we have a quick look at it, again, is that price kind of, once it's made its correction, it kind of comes back to where it was, and that beetles along sideways, kind of place hopscotch along the horizontal support and resistance line until the trend line says, kind of get upstairs to bed. If you've got kids, you know what that's like. And then it does so. So let's have a look at yen. Yen's in quite an interesting position at the moment, because if we have a look on the monthly chart, right. It's never really been this low, certainly going back as far as our systems indicate, which is the 1st of August 1990, so that literally is back in the day. So if we zoom forward to the daily chart, as we can see, we've got a definite floor here. but we've also got a trend line, so it's being squished. So whether it decides to flip the trend line off, so to speak, and head off north, or whether or not it is actually then basically forced to go south, is anybody's guess. So we certainly wouldn't be looking to do anything with that at the moment until the market tells us what it's going to do. Okay, moving on to other currency pairs which are of interest to us. Let's have a look at Euro JPY. Again, we've got a downtrend here. We've got a fib cloud which seems to be reasonably well established on the daily, and we have bounces off the line. Again, it's moving back in, so should it hit about here, then we'd be looking to see some sort of movement south. So that would be confluence of that horizontal support line and the trend line there. Which other ones we got? Euro GBP. This one is interesting because we're going to see now, obviously we've got the daily it's a fairly, I believe they call it a nascent trend in the trade, which basically means that it is not really fully formed yet. So we don't know whether or not that's actually where it's trending, or whether or not it will then bounce off and come back, and then we'll need to redraw a trend line to kind of do more like that. Again, we will see. That's the thing about trading. It's a lot of it is just looking at charts and waiting for things to, because basically we want to be setting our traps, and the way that we set our traps is we watch what the animals are doing and watch what trails they're forming, and then we kind of set them at the right point. It doesn't mean that I shoot small fluffy animals, by the way. So let's have a look at CHF JPY. Okay, so this is the Swissy versus the yen fight. Again, a trend here. It's a bit of a trend. I've drawn a trend line in because I can see it bouncing. Fib cloud tells me that it is indeed moving downwards, and again we'll be looking to see. What you may well find is, again, a really good way of doing it is to actually look at what currency pairs are doing. So Zinco's goes down, beetles along sideways goes down. So we might see it beetle along sideways and then maybe hit here and then again, and then take a move south. So what we'll be doing at some point is to put in some more lines of support and resistance. If we can find any, if the back data on the charts tells us where it's likely to stop next, because that will give us some idea of targets if we're not going to be using a trailing stop. Okay, let's have a look at pound Swiss. Again, it was bouncing up and down. It's kind of punched through that line, which is quite interesting because that's one of the reasons why we look to wait for some sort of confirmation when price action hits the line. So again, you can see some nice examples of horizontal price action with trend lines and it bouncing forward, again in line with the trend. With this one, if you'd have said, oh, I tell you what, it's close enough, I'm going to go for it, then you would probably have been stopped out by now, depending on what your stops would be like. We tend to do fairly tight stops when we're looking to do this sort of trade. The reason being is because if you've got a tight stop, obviously you've got a greater opportunity for profit because you can then increase your the amount of points that you're going in, providing you're using proper risk management. So as we can see, we've got a breach here. Whether that then basically means that it's adios muchacho for this particular trend, or this is just one of those down spikes which occasionally throw people a curveball, because occasionally the market makers like to do that. They like to say, oh, I tell you what, people are going to get in here as soon as it touches, and then we're going to take the stops away and reap in all that lovely money for ourselves. So sometimes the markets will do that. Whether or not that's an example of this, or whether or not it's literally just the trend has gone bye-bye, we'll see. It's almost, if you look at it, it's almost forming a double top there. But we shall see. We shall see. Okay, next one for us is GBP NZD. So that's the British pound versus the New Zealand dollar. Again, it's bouncing up fairly nicely. It looks like it's come off there. That to me looks like some sort of head and shoulders pattern, although you'd normally find a head and shoulders at the top of an uptrend, whereas in this case it's kind of downtrending. But we shall see what happens with that one. And as you can see, it's come down and it's bounced off horizontal support and resistance, so it's probably making its mind up what it wants to do there, so we shall wait for it to decide. Last one which we're going to have a look at today is Aussie CAD, Australian dollar versus Canadian dollar, which is a bit of an oil battle, that one, because obviously both economies are reasonably oil heavy. We have a kind of uptrend-ish. Are we grasping at straws? Maybe. Only time will tell. We've got a few points here. It seems to be, again, confluence of horizontal support and resistance is giving us significant moves in the direction of the trend, which leads us to suggest that the trend line does actually exist and it's not just a figment of our imagination. Fib cloud seems to be kind of undecided, but forming, starting to form what we would call a trend configuration, i.e. traffic light, kind of like a green, yellow, red in the right order. So we'll see if then price then moves up and then gets here. Then again, we could look to see some sort of move north, especially if it's coming back down onto it. If it approaches and then hits there, then obviously if you want it to be in an uptrend, you want it to be acting on lines of support. So we'll see what happens with that. Right, that's just a quick update of the currency pairs that we are looking at, and obviously the lines that we've drawn on our charts. So see if they match or resonate with you. Best of luck out there. We will be back with you on Monday of next week. So have a great weekend. Like I say, the news in the markets at the moment it looks to be a fairly choppy day, but then again, Fridays always are. So if you are trading, then the very best of British luck to you. Mobile Trading Floor signing off.